Hi, Archie.
Hi,
How are you?
good.
Are you ready for our new book today?
Yes. I forgot our new book. I forgot.
Well, I will tell you because this is the one you asked for. Dun, 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 dun. Need a drum roll. I don't know how to make a drum roll. Ta-da! This is the book you asked for. It's the special edition of Magic Treehouse called Merlin Missions. And you showed this to me.
I'll tap chapter 1.
Chapter 1, A Royal Invitation.
Chapter
Sunlight
1.
faded from the late afternoon sky.
He's reading
Puffy
chapter
snow
1.
clouds were moving
Oh, very good.
正在关机.
Do you have to use the pen?
Yes.
Why is it reading in Chinese?
It's in English and Chinese.
Oh,
And-
both.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and look here at what we have. This is called the prologue. I think if I look at the Magic Treehouse book that we just finished, where is it? Here it is. We just read this one. And this one also had a prologue, you see?
Yes.
So I think this author likes to put a prologue in the book. It comes before chapter 1, and it gives us some information that we need to know in order for us to understand, I think to kind of help us understand the setting and if there's any, right, where this is taking place and just any information that we might need. The first thing I noticed is this picture. And what kind of animal do you think this is?
I don't know.
No, I'm not really sure. It looks, when I look at this picture,
I think it is the Santa's.
a reindeer?
Yes.
Maybe that's what it is. Well, we'll have to see. All right, so the prologue, which is what this says right here, it says prologue, and it is like a chapter before chapter 1. And it's going to kind of introduce us, I think, to the characters and the setting, some background information. Once upon a time in Frog Creek, Pennsylvania, well, here comes part of our setting right here, Frog Creek, Pennsylvania. A mysterious tree house appeared in the woods. Oh, more setting, a tree house in the woods. A boy named Jack and his sister Annie climbed into the tree house. Characters, maybe I'll make them here. Jack and Annie.
Jack and Annie.
Right, those are the two characters. They found that it was filled with books. So you and I knew all of that information because we just finished Midnight on the Moon. Jack and Annie soon discovered, that means they found out, that the treehouse was magic. Magic means that this cannot happen in real life. It could take them to the places they read about in the books. All they had to do was point to a picture and wish to go there. They discovered that during their adventures, no time at all passed in Frog Creek. So if they pointed to a picture of the moon and said, we wish to go there, they can go to the moon, have an adventure, come back to Earth, and the time on the clock will be exactly the same. No time will have passed in real
Like,
life at all.
go there like 12 o'clock and it come back maybe 12 o'clock or 12. Yes, just 12 o'clock.
12 or 12:01, something like that.
Yes.
Jack and Annie eventually, that means it took them a little bit of time, but they did learned that the treehouse belonged to Morgan Le Fay, an enchantress from Camelot, the long ago kingdom of King Arthur. So we've got Morgan Le Fay as another character.
I know Morgan Le Fay is a magic person,
Magic, right.
and she is a
Librarian.
Yes, librarian.
So an enchantress is someone who can put enchantments on things. Enchantments is another word for spells. So she can do magic and put spells on things. On one of their journeys, Jack and Annie visited Morgan's library in Camelot and brought hope and courage to King Arthur. Now it is winter. Jack and Annie have not seen Morgan or the magic treehouse for many months. Dot, 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 dot. All right, so I think we are ready to start chapter 1. This chapter is called A Royal Invitation. Now, if you see this word royal, that means it has something to do with a king or a queen or the king's family or the queen's family or a prince or a princess. It has something to do with that family of the king and maybe where they live in a castle. And an invitation might be a little piece of paper that says, you are invited, you can come. Sunlight had faded from the late afternoon sky. That means it's nighttime and the sky is getting dark. Puffy snow clouds were moving in. Let's hurry. I'm cold, said Jack. He and Annie were walking home from school. Their Christmas vacation was just beginning. So in Taiwan, you get a long vacation for Chinese New Year. Maybe at Chinese New Year, you get a vacation for 3 weeks, maybe even sometimes 4 weeks. In America, many schools have a long vacation near the holiday of Christmas. And some schools will be on vacation for 1 week, and some schools will be on vacation for 2 weeks, but not for 3 weeks or 4 weeks. So let's see. So they're excited to have Christmas vacation, and they hear something. Coo, coo. Wait, said Annie. Look. She pointed to a white bird sitting on a bare tree branch at the edge of the woods. The bird was staring straight at them. Now, we need to talk for just a minute about why that tree branch is bare. Bare means there are no leaves on this tree branch.
Because,
Yes?
because it is Christmas, it is snow, because it is winter.
That's right. And winter follows the fall. And the fall is when the leaves on the trees of some trees will fall off. We just lost the story. The leaves, if they fall off the tree and land on the ground, then on the branches of the tree, there are no leaves. And we would call those branches bare tree branches. All righty. The bird was staring straight at them. Archie, what can we do to fix this situation? Oh, thank you. It's a dove, said Jack. It's a messenger, said Annie, from Morgan. What do we remember about Annie? Why would Annie think it's a messenger from Morgan and Jack would just think it's a bird?
Because every time Merlin use animal to be a messenger.
Oh, okay. And also, I think Annie might have a little bit more imagination than Jack. I think Jack is a little bit more of a scientist, of a book person, of a thinking about what is possible and what is impossible. No, no, Jack said, afraid to get his hopes up. They hadn't seen Morgan Le Fay in a long time. He really missed her. Yes, said Annie. She has a mission for us. I can feel it.
Every time she said, I can feel it.
Oh, then she's right.
Yes.
All right, let me get a nice orange here. That looks like a good orange. All right, right here, afraid to get his hopes up. Have you heard that phrase before in English?
Yes.
Afraid to get your hopes up. What do you think that means?
What did it mean?
Well, oh, that's not what it means. When we hope for something, it means that we aren't really sure what's going to happen, but we know what we want to happen. We know what we wish would happen or what we would like to happen. We just don't know if it will. Oh, Archie, do you think maybe it would be okay not to cover up the words? Thank you.
Okay.
So when we hope for something, we're thinking about what hasn't happened yet. Something is going to happen later in the future. And we know what we want to happen, but we don't know if it will. We can either worry about it because we don't know if it will be what we want, or we can feel hopeful. Hopeful is when we believe that it might work out the way that we want, that we're hoping for, that we would like, that we're wishing for. That's having hope. But then, if it doesn't happen the way we want, we can feel disappointed. Disappointed is when it's already happened, it didn't work out the way we wanted, and so we feel sad. That's disappointed. And we use our heart, you know, that heart we have inside of our body that, you know, goes boom, 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 boom. What our heart really does is pump the blood around our body so that every part of our body can get oxygen. But we also use the word heart in English to talk about, do we feel hope or do we feel disappointed? And so when we say something like, my heart sank, then up here, kind of floating on top of the water, okay, is where we have hope. And we're like, we think it'll work out the way we want. We believe it can. But then if it happens not the way we want, it sinks. And then we feel disappointed down here. So we use our heart to say, if our heart is full or our heart is up here, we have hope, we feel good. But when when it falls or sinks, then we feel disappointed. So when we talk about getting your hopes up, we want our hope to go up here so we believe that something might happen the way we want it to. But there can be a little fear of that, right? Because what happens if we get our hopes up? If our hope comes up here, we're like, yes, it's going to be Morgan. It's going to work out the way we want. What if it turns out not to be the way we want? Then our heart will sink. It'll go glub, 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 and we will feel sad and disappointed. And he doesn't want to feel sad and disappointed. Feeling sad and disappointed is not a fun feeling to have. But if he doesn't get his hopes up, then he doesn't have to worry about becoming disappointed because he'll just kind of stay here. He'd rather just stay here and not expect anything than get his hopes up and then have it not work out and feel really sad. So some people are afraid to get their hopes up because they are afraid that maybe they would end up feeling sad and disappointed. Okay. In the hush of the cold twilight. Twilight is kind of at that time of day when the sun just went down and the sky is kind of halfway between being light and dark. It's not, maybe you can't see very well, but it's not pitch black. In the hush of the cold twilight, the dove spread its wings and flew into the Frog Creek woods. Come on, said Annie, the treehouse is back. You're just hoping, said Jack. I'm knowing, said Annie. She ran into the woods, following the white dove. Oh, brother, said Jack, but he took off after Annie. Took off means that he ran.
Yes, ran.
He ran after Annie. I want us to remember that when we have a word written in italics,
I know.
like this, if it's just one word, then the author wants us to kind of stretch it apart, like stretch a rubber band.
Wait.
Right, so we say, I'm knowing. Even in the growing darkness, they easily found their way. They knew just where to go. They zigzagged between the bare trees and ran over the frozen ground until they came to the tallest oak in the woods. And an oak is a kind of tree. See, said Annie, pointing to the top of the tree. Yeah, whispered Jack. There it was, the magic tree house. Morgan, shouted Annie. Jack held his breath, waiting to see the enchantress at the treehouse window. But, Morgan did not appear. You know, a lot of times that word but means something is about to happen that isn't quite what we wanted.
I know, because Morgan is waiting them in her kingdom.
Oh, okay. Annie grabbed the rope.
And they will land on a tree behind the castle.
Okay.
It's not behind, it's in front.
Okay, in front of. Jack held his breath, waiting to see the enchantress at the treehouse window, but Morgan did not appear. Annie grabbed the rope ladder and started up. Jack followed. When they climbed inside the treehouse, Jack saw something lying on the floor. It was a scroll rolled up and tied with a red velvet ribbon. Jack picked up the scroll and unrolled it. The thick yellowed paper shimmered with large gold writing. Wow, Morgan sent us a really fancy note, said Annie. It's an invitation, said Jack. Listen. Oh, this is pretty fancy. Dear Jack and Annie, please accept this royal invitation to spend Christmas in the kingdom of Camelot. From M. Now, it might not be Morgan, but I have a feeling that they think that that is from Morgan. Christmas in Camelot, said Annie. I don't believe it. Cool, whispered Jack. He pictured a beautiful glowing castle lit with candles and filled with knights and ladies feasting and singing. We're going to celebrate Christmas with Morgan and King Arthur, said Annie, and Queen Guinevere. That's kind of an interesting spelling. Guinevere. Yeah, said Jack. And the Knights of the Round Table. Like
I know what is the Knights of the Round Table. I
Yep.
heard that story before.
Well, then you must have heard the name Sir Lancelot.
Yes.
Let's go, said Annie. Where's the book? She and Jack looked around the treehouse for a
They
book.
just tap up that picture.
Oh, okay.
They
On
just
the
tap
invitation?
there.
Okay. The only book they saw was the Pennsylvania book that always brought to them home. That's strange, said Jack. Morgan didn't send a book about Camelot with the royal invitation. How does she expect us to get there? I don't know, said Annie. Maybe she forgot. Jack picked up the invitation. He read it again. He turned it over, hoping to find more information. The back of the scroll was blank. He handed the invitation to Annie. She must have forgotten, he said. Darn, said Annie, staring at the gold writing. I really wish we could go to Camelot. Oh, the tree branches rustled. The wind began to blow. What's happening? Said Jack. I don't know, said Annie. Wait a minute, said Jack. You were holding the invitation and you made a wish. The wind blew harder. That must have made the magic work, cried Annie. Jack felt a surge of joy. We're going to Camelot, he said. The tree house started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still, absolutely still. You want to read those last 4 lines for us?
No.
Want to read it with me? It's one of the best parts of the story. I'm going to read it one more time. The tree house started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still, absolutely still. Remember we talked about the meaning of still when we were reading Midnight on the Moon and they were on the moon and they talked about how
Where did you go? I'm coming back.
okay. So still means nothing's moving. Remember those 2 places I showed you when we were reading Midnight on the Moon of things that I have done in my life where everything felt really still? Do you remember what those 2 places were? One was when I was on a glacier in Alaska, and one was when I was parasailing over a lake. And everything felt very still. All right, this is chapter 2. This is Camelot. Jack shivered. He could see his breath in the dim light. Dim means just a little, not very much, so it was not very bright. Annie was staring out the window. This is Camelot, she said. Jack looked out with her. The treehouse had landed in a grove of tall, bare trees. A huge dark castle loomed against the gray sky. No light shone from its windows. No banners waved from its turrets. Wind whistled through its tall towers, sounding sad and lonely. It looks deserted, said Annie. You see this word loomed?
Next page. But
Loomed is a word that usually makes us feel not very happy, maybe a little bit nervous.
but Morgan, the next page, Morgan will come out.
Oh, okay. Got it. Yep, I see that. They've landed. They're looking out the window. There she is. Yeah, said Jack. I hope we came to the right place. Jack pulled his notebook and pencil out of his pack. He wanted to write a description of the dark castle. A description will include what does it look like? What does it sound like? What does he see and hear? What does he observe? Hey, I see someone, said Annie. Jack looked out the window again. A woman was crossing the castle drawbridge. This right here is a drawbridge. She wore a long cloak and carried a lantern. Her white hair blew in the wind. Morgan, said Annie and Jack together. They laughed with relief. Morgan hurried over the frost-covered ground toward the grove of trees. Annie, Jack, is that you? She called. Of course. Who'd you think? Shouted Annie. She started.
Who do you think? That who you think is who do you think?
Who did you think? Who did you think? That's a good thing to notice here, because we know that apostrophe D can either be did, or it can be had, or it can be would. And in this one, it's did. Who did you think? Shouted Annie. She started down from the treehouse. Jack threw his notebook into his backpack. He followed Annie down the rope ladder. When they reached the icy ground, they ran to Morgan and both threw their arms around her. I was looking out a window in the castle and saw a bright flash in the orchard, said Morgan. What are you doing here? You didn't send the treehouse for us? Asked Jack. With a royal invitation to spend Christmas in Camelot? Asked Annie. No, said Morgan. She sounded alarmed. But the invitation was signed with an M, said Jack. I don't understand, said Morgan. We are not celebrating Christmas in Camelot this year. You aren't? Said Jack. Why not? Said Annie. A look of sadness crossed Morgan's face. Do you remember when you visited my library and gave King Arthur the hope and courage to challenge his enemy? She asked. Sure, said Jack. Well, Arthur's enemy was a man named Mordred, said Morgan. After you left, Arthur defeated him, but not before Mordred's dark wizard cast a spell over the whole kingdom. The spell robbed Camelot of all its joy. So all of the joy and happiness in Camelot was taken away by a magic spell. What? All its joy? Whispered Annie. Yes, said Morgan. For months, Camelot has been without music, without celebration, and without laughter. Without means it doesn't have it. Oh no, said Annie. What can we do to help? Said Jack. Wow, this looks like now we know the problem. The problem is they need to figure out how to help Camelot get back its joy and happiness. What color would you like for the star today?
Blue.
Okay, how about the outside?
Blue.
Okay. Well, this seems like it will be a great story. What an interesting problem to solve. The problem is...
And I will read this book today.
Oh, you're going to read it? Okay. The problem is that they have to help Camelot get back all of its joy and happiness that was taken away by magic. Very interesting problem. I think this will be a great story to read together. Good idea. Thanks for suggesting it. All right. So long.
Cheddar.
Chip. Bye, Archie.